Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It's been a busy couple of days at the sheriff's office, and obviously not for good reason. We are going to be briefing up on 4 different cases involving shootings that happened over the last couple of days. I will just to give you fair warning. Since we have so many cases to cover, I'll be doing. Don't forget, I'll be doing interviews for the Spanish-speaking media as well. So I will brief on each one in English, then again in Spanish, and then I'll open up to questions on that individual story, and before moving on to the next story. Now, with that being said, at the end of it, if you want to go back and ask questions about one of the previous cases, that would be okay too. But let me go ahead and get started. So as you may know, Saturday morning, we won't bring up the graphic just yet, but Saturday morning, we've been working on a homicide from the overnight hours, sometime during the overnight hours. That happened on Gulf East near Metzger Middle School. We will be closing the press conference today with that case, again, in hopes that we'll catch you up to speed on where we are to now, but again, in hopes that we may get more information on that. So as we were working on that case from Saturday, earlier this week on the evening of the 9th, we received several different calls over the course of several hours regarding at least 3 shootings and then 1 injured suspect at a hospital. Now, the details of these may get a little confusing because there is a whole lot going on with regard to these cases. Come to find out, at least one of them ties into another, and we're trying to sort it all out ourselves, but I will try to be as comprehensive on these as I possibly can. So at 8:42 p.m. that evening, we received a call to 6733 Montgomery Road. A 21-year-old male had been shot at the scene several times. As deputies were arriving, a 23-year-old male, also a victim, flagged down a patrol sergeant that was there on scene. That 23-year-old was transported by ambulance to Northeast Methodist Hospital with gunshot wounds to both of his hands. He is currently recovering in the hospital from those gunshot wounds. The investigators went to speak to both victims that both survived. We went to speak with victims that night. What we were able to tell at this point is that it appears at this point that this is a drug deal gone bad. It appears that it may have been a case of marijuana, an exchange of marijuana, which again, may seem surprising to some when you hear drug deal gone bad. However, it should be noted that if you're looking at all of our shootings over the course of the last several years that have gone bad during the course of the drug deal, most of them have been involving misdemeanor amounts of marijuana. So I say that to say, just because the drugs involved are not necessarily hard drugs or high dollar drugs, doesn't mean that it can't go bad at any given second and end up in gunfire. In this instance, a 21-year-old male and a 23-year-old male are both in pretty serious condition still in the hospital. We are asking for anybody with information on this case to give us a call, 210-335-6000, or they can also email us at bcsotips@bear.org. El día 9, aproximadamente las 8:42 de la noche, nosotros fuimos despachados para 6733 Montgomery Road por reporte de un hombre que había sido baleado ahí en la escena. Ellos estaban buscando un hombre de 21 años de edad. Cuando oficiales llegaron, un sargento, otra víctima, un hombre de 23 años de edad, se le acercó y le dio la queja que ellos estaban allí cuando a otros sospechosos desconocidos les dispararon varias veces. Los 2 hombres fueron heridos, uno de 21 años de edad, el otro de 23 años de edad. Los 2 fueron baleados y fueron llevados al hospital. Cuando oficiales empezaron a hablar con ellos en el hospital, nosotros nos dimos cuenta que esto pasó durante el tiempo que las víctimas y los sospechosos desconocidos estaban uno vendiéndole marihuana al otro. No se sabe ahorita quién fueron los que iban a comprar y los que iban a vender, sino que no solamente sabemos que ellos se encontraron para venderse marihuana uno al otro y empezaron a disparar, y dos de las víctimas sufrieron heridas a causa de esto. Nosotros estamos pidiendo información tocante el delito, entonces quisiéramos que si alguien tiene información, que nos pueden llamar al 210-335-6000 o también nos pueden mandar email bcsotips@bear.org. I'll open it up to whatever questions you might have about this double shooting on Montgomery Drive. And I'm sorry, let me go back and correct. The date on that was August 8th for that shooting. It was not August 9th, it was August 8th. So I'm sorry for that misinformation. El tiroteo ese pasó el día 8 de agosto, no el día 9. Entonces hace 2 días que pasó en la noche. So no questions on the Montgomery Road shooting to this point? Okay. Shortly after that shooting, so literally as we were pulling up, as several deputies were still pulling up on scene of the initial shooting on Montgomery Road, we received a call several miles away, nowhere in the area, for another shooting. This happened around 8:56 p.m. US 281 and Hume Road, which is pretty far south, Bexar County. Witness at the scene reported that when we got the call, a witness reported that there were 2 males down with gunshot wounds in the road with no vehicle to be seen, just the 2 victims laying in the road. When we approached, we found 2 19-year-old victims there, both Hispanic males, suffering from gunshot wounds to the upper body. One of the victims died there on the scene, 19-year-old male, suffering from gunshot wounds to the upper body. He was shot several times. The other, also a 19-year-old male, also suffered gunshot wounds to his upper body, namely the chest and arm. He has survived to this point. My understanding is that he is either in the hospital or has already been released from the hospital. But thankfully, that victim did survive his injuries, albeit pretty serious injuries. Now, the caller on the scene, a witness on the scene, reported that several African-American males had shown up to the scene and that they were seen shooting into a vehicle that the 2 victims were in. Now, what we know to this point is this. We believe that those 2 19-year-old males showed up at the scene to sell an older model, spray-painted black in color Dodge Charger. And I believe we'll be showing pictures of that Dodge Charger here shortly. Now, this is a picture of the actual car. And so please, we're asking everybody to be on the lookout for this car, and I'll explain where it comes into play. Now, the appearance to this car has changed somewhat since then. My understanding is that the rims on this car are no longer silver. They were black at the time of the shooting. But again, it's possible that they may have changed back to silver. Somebody may have changed them in an effort to change the appearance of the car. But nonetheless, we're looking for this spray-painted black Dodge Charger, and it's an older model Dodge Charger. What we know about the case at this point is this, that the 2 victims met to sell the black Dodge Charger to some African-American suspects, and they made this deal on social media, on a social media platform, to meet and exchange money for this vehicle. Obviously, at some point, it became pretty obvious that the suspects in the case intended to rob at gunpoint the 2 victims. For whatever reason, the deal went further south than that, and the 2 victims were unfortunately shot, and one 19-year-old male lost his life as a result of that. The suspects in the case did take that Dodge Charger after shooting the 2 victims, and the victims were taken to SAMC for their injuries, where again one of them passed away. Although that one young man does remain in critical condition, we are hoping for the best as far as he goes. Now, he has been able to provide somewhat limited information on the case, and again, we're hoping that with the help of the public, we can get more information. But we are asking the public to give us a call. Again, 210-335-6000, or they can email us at bcsotips@bear.org. Again, if you know who the shooters were in this case, if you know anything about the situation, or if you happen to spot this car, give us a call, 210-335-6000, or email us at bcsotips@bear.org. Now, let me just use this as an opportunity to promote something that we have going on here at the Sheriff's Office. I know the SAPD's got something similar because I helped set it up when I worked over there. We actually, since this is an online transaction that was attempted, let me just go ahead and use this as an opportunity to let you know that here at the Sheriff's substations, 6825 Cagnan Road and 8794 East Loop 1604 North, we have what's called a safe exchange zone at our substations. There's 2 marked parking spots right out the front door of our substation, and there's actually cameras, and they're well lit. So we would ask if anybody's got an online sale that they need to make anywhere in the area of Cagnan Road or East Loop 1604, where our substation is on the backside of Randolph Air Force Base, feel free to come use our substation. You don't have to come in. Just make the arrangements to meet the other party there at the substation. Obviously, we can't guarantee that people won't try anything. But again, if they're hesitant to come meet you at a police station, then maybe there was something amiss and you probably shouldn't be dealing with those folks anyway. So feel free to use our substations for that purpose. That's what those parking spots were put in place for. Again, I know the San Antonio Police Department has similar setups at each of their 6 substations at this point. So we would rather you be safe wherever you end up going. We would certainly encourage you to make full use of those. And once again, one of the other cases we'll be touching on in just a few, also an online transaction that was going to occur. So let me give some further information on this. I'll go to Spanish on this one here in just a few. A few minutes after that shooting, or actually several hours after that shooting, a 17-year-old male was dropped off at Northeast Baptist Hospital suffering from a gunshot wound. Now, initially, we just knew that we had a young man that was dropped off at the hospital with a gunshot wound to his abdomen. Unfortunately, that young man was deceased shortly thereafter. He was pronounced deceased shortly thereafter. What we do know is that shooting victim's mother received a call from someone she does not know, stating that her son had been shot, and it was obviously a very chaotic, confusing scene. As we knew that we had at least 2 shooting incidents working, and then we had this young man who we did not know at the time that was dropped off at a hospital and died there on the scene. So what we've been able to piece together about that young man is that we believe that he is possibly was involved in the 281 and Hume Road. So the shooting involving the stolen black Charger, we believe that this young man was involved to some extent. Now, it's too early to tell if he was a suspect in that case or if he was with the victims in the case. We just don't know at this point, but we do believe that he was injured in that same incident, pretty good distance away and basically across the county from this. And so we would like information on who may have dropped him off. Did anybody have any dealings with him during the time span from the time the shooting happened at about 8:56 p.m. to the time when he was dropped off at the hospital? Again, that's a pretty, whether it was friends of his or whoever it was that dropped him off and basically left him to die. I can't say it any better than to say that's just a pretty cold-blooded situation to just drop off. If this is a buddy of theirs, just drop off your buddy and leave him to die, and then you flee because you want to get away without suffering any consequences as a result of it. So we're certainly asking for anybody with information. Again, give us a call, 210-335-6000, or email us at bcsotips@fair.org. Aproximadamente a las 9 de la noche el día 8, nosotros recibimos una llamada por la carretera 281 y Hume Road en el sur del condado. Un reporte de 2 hombres que habían sido baleados y estaban heridos en la calle. Cuando oficiales llegaron, ellos se encontraron con las 2 víctimas, 2 hombres de 19 años de edad. Uno de ellos, aunque los 2 fueron llevados para el hospital, desafortunadamente uno de esos hombres de 19 años de edad falleció a causa de sus heridas. El otro sigue en condiciones críticas, pero sí sobrevivió sus heridas. Nosotros sabemos que ellos se encontraron con varios sospechosos, hombres afroamericanos, que ellos se pusieron de acuerdo de encontrarse allí en esa área por vender un carro. Las dos víctimas iban a vender un carro marca Dodge Charger, negro en color, y el carro está pintado a mano con pintura. Entonces la pintura del carro se ve media rara. Entonces por eso les estamos enseñando la foto esta al público. La foto esta las estamos enseñando al público con las esperanzas que alguien ha visto este carro raro en el tráfico. Es posible que los rines ya no son de plata, sino que son que los habían pintado negros también los rines. Entonces es posible que el carro todavía tiene esos rines negros, pero también es posible que alguien ha cambiado sus rines ahorita. Entonces, si alguien tiene información tocante este carro, el tiroteo o la otra información que les voy a dar en unos momentos, por favor, háblenos al 210-335-6000 o mándenos un email, bcsotips@bear.org. Al rato después de ese tiroteo, nosotros recibimos una llamada en un hospital de un joven de 17 años de edad que alguien lo dejó ahí en el hospital con heridas graves. Él, desafortunadamente, él falleció a causa de sus heridas ahí en el hospital, pero se aparenta que alguien solamente lo dejó allí y ahorita pensamos nosotros que hay gran chance que esta víctima estaba involucrada en el tiroteo que pasó, el tiroteo anterior en 281 y Hume Road. Nosotros ahorita no se sabe si era solamente testigo al robo y tiroteo ese o si fue uno de los sospechosos. Entonces nosotros quisiéramos saber más. Si alguien tiene información tocante el robo, tiroteo, cualquiera de las víctimas, cualquiera de los sospechosos, o si han visto este carro, por favor, háblenos al 210-335-6000. Are there any questions on the shooting on 281 and Hume for the victim?
Javier, soy Antonio.
Yes, sir.
Ok. Javier, en este caso, aparentemente hay dos víctimas, dos muertes, uno de 19 y a lo mejor el otro de 17. Tomando en cuenta que el asesinato ocurrió mientras robaron un auto, ¿este es un caso de asesinato capital? ¿Capital murder?
Es buena pregunta esa, sí. Si nosotros llegamos a encontrarnos con los sospechosos de este caso, porque el homicidio se aparenta que ocurrió durante un robo, entonces eso tiene razón, Antonio, eso sí es posible que se vayan a enfrentar con cargos por homicidio capital, porque el homicidio ocurrió durante el tiempo de un robo. Entonces, nosotros por eso estamos pidiendo tanta información. Hay información que no les di en español. Este caso, porque era un caso donde ellos se pusieron de acuerdo para vender un carro por las redes sociales, nosotros les estamos pidiendo al público que si por favor tienen artículos personales, carros, joyería, lo que sea, si van a vender algo por medio de las redes sociales, por favor, en nuestras estaciones de policía de nosotros, pero también las del Departamento de Policía de San Antonio, sabemos que tenemos áreas en el estacionamiento de carros especiales marcadas con letreros para recordarles al público que ahí se pueden encontrar uno al otro para intercambiar artículos personales por dinero en efectivo para la seguridad que les ofrece estar en un edificio de policía. Si la otra persona no quieren encontrarse con usted en una estación de policía, entonces es posible que ellos intentaron las intenciones de ellos fue robarte. Entonces, por eso les pedimos a todo el público que por favor tomen ventaja de ese servicio que nosotros ofrecemos, tanto nosotros como el Departamento de Policía de San Antonio. Nuestras estaciones de policía, la primera es el que está en el oeste del condado, 6825 Cagnan Road, cerca de la prisión Domínguez. Y la otra estación en el este del condado está en 8794 East Loop 1604, en la carretera 1604-8794. Ahí estamos atrás de la base de Randolph. Entonces, ahí si se llegan a encontrarse ahí con alguien para vender artículos, ni nos tienen que avisar, solamente tienen que encontrarse allí, no tienen que entrar al edificio para pedir permiso, solamente que se pongan ahí en los espacios esos, en el estacionamiento, tenemos letreros, ahí les estamos enseñando los letreros y nomás queremos que usted estén seguros mientras que hagan su negocio personal. Any other questions on the shooting on 281 and Hume? Okay. Let me touch on the last shooting from that evening. Then around 11:13 p.m. that same evening, we received a call for 7500 Paradise on East Bexar County. There, deputies were dispatched to an entrance gate at the Walzem Park mobile home community. The witness reported that his his fence was damaged by a car. He had heard several gunshots nearby and then heard a loud crash. That was what the 911 caller told us. BCSO was then made aware of a 17-year-old male that arrived at Northeast Methodist Hospital with multiple gunshot wounds. He was hit, and that 17-year-old male was hit in the chest and shoulder area and left arm. Again, through piecing things together, we were finally able to realize that the crashed vehicle at 7500 Paradise and the young man that was found at the hospital, Northeast Methodist Hospital, suffering from gunshot wounds, they were related. Now, thankfully, this 17-year-old male, he survived his gunshot wounds, and he's at this point this one's actually out of the hospital at this point, so we're happy to report that. But what we're able to determine at this point in the investigation is that this 17-year-old male and a female witness met up with to sell a gold chain that they had again arranged on social media to exchange with some unknown suspects. They went to go sell this necklace. They met at a fast food restaurant that was there near that location at Walzem and FM 78. Now, during the course of the exchange, here's where it becomes a bit suspicious. The suspect in the case actually told the victims to drive around to the back of the restaurant to another location because it was too crowded there to conduct the transaction. Should have been a red flag for these victims in this case. Nonetheless, they drove around to the back to meet up with the suspect. The suspect entered the back of the vehicle and he started to act like he was logging into his Cash App to pay for the necklace. The suspect indicated to them that his Cash App was acting up. He got out of the car and then all of a sudden reached into the car and shot the male victim several times in the upper body. The driver, the witness, sped away from the location at a high rate of speed to get out of there, obviously. She later lost control and then wrecked into that fence at 7500 Paradise. So in this case, the victim in the case called a family member who then picked him up and took him to the hospital. The suspect's identity, unfortunately, remains unknown, and that investigation remains ongoing. We are, again, reminding the community, since it's an online exchange, take full advantage of those safe exchange zones here at our substations and also at the San Antonio police substations. Just off the top of my head, you're talking about 8 different locations spread out throughout the county and the city of San Antonio that you can conduct these safe operations or safe exchanges safely and securely under the watchful eye of our security cameras at these substations. Once again, our 2 substation addresses, 6825 Cagnan Road and 8794 East Loop 1604. The San Antonio police substations, there's 6 of those throughout. Feel free to take advantage of every single one of them if you can. We just want you to be safe and sound as you conduct your online transactions. Esta misma noche de los otros 2 tiroteos, aproximadamente las 11:13 de la noche, nosotros fuimos despachados para 7500 Paradise Lane por reporte de un choque. El testigo nos dijo que un carro le había pegado a la cerca de su casa y que no había encontrado a nadie dentro del carro. Sí, el testigo había reportado que él había escuchado balazos y luego ya alguien chocó hacia su cerca, pero no encontramos a nadie. Al ratito, nosotros recibimos una llamada por un hospital en Northeast Methodist de un joven de 17 años de edad que fue llevado al hospital sufriendo con varios balazos al cuerpo. Se aparenta que la víctima que sobrevivió sus heridas, el joven ese, y una mujer se encontraron con un sospechoso para venderle un collar de oro que ellos se habían puesto de acuerdo por las redes sociales, encontrarse en un restaurante ahí en Walzem y 78 para venderle el collar. El sospechoso les dijo que por favor estaba muy ocupado el restaurante, si se podían ir a otra parte. Eso, en mi opinión, las víctimas hubieran, ojalá y hubieran reconocido el peligro con eso, que el sospechoso estaba cambiando donde se quería encontrar porque el lugar estaba muy ocupado. Eso es lo preferido por un vendedor. Pero el sospechoso les pidió que se movieran. El sospechoso se metió al carro con las víctimas o la víctima y el testigo y él empezó a actuar como que estaba en su Cash App, en su teléfono celular. Él les dijo que estaba teniendo problemas con su Cash App, se salió del carro y ya sacó una pistola y empezó a disparar hacia la víctima. La víctima fue baleada varias veces. Afortunadamente, el testigo, la chofera, ella se salió del estacionamiento a muy alta velocidad para escaparse del sospechoso, y cuando ella se estrelló contra esta cerca, la víctima fue llevada a un hospital por un pariente, y pues ya nosotros pudimos averiguar más información, averiguar más información de lo que había pasado. Ya otra vez les voy a recordar al público que, por favor, tenemos estos espacios especiales en nuestros estacionamientos de carro, en nuestras estaciones de policía. Por favor, tomen ventaja. Estacionamientos, las estaciones de policía están en 6825 Hume Road y 8794 East Loop 1604, por la carretera 1604, atrás de la base de Randolph. Any further questions on the Paradise shooting? Okay, I will wrap it up then. Oh, is there a question, Patty? No, okay. I will wrap it up then with the first of the four cases that we're talking about. So as you may know, on Saturday morning, we received a call to the Woodlake Trails mobile home community, which is on East Spear County near Woodlake, the old Woodlake golf course. We received a call early that morning for a report of an injured male. When we arrived on scene, we found the body of a 20-year-old man that he was suffering from we now know, a gunshot wound to the head. He was shot one time and died there on the scene, unfortunately. We now know who the young man is. His name is Martin Jaquez Martinez. So Martin Jaquez, Jaquez Martinez, common spelling. He's 20 years of age. What we don't know is who killed Martin and why. At this point, we're following all leads. Now, we knew at that time that Martin's truck was missing. It's a 2022 white in color Toyota Tacoma. We have since recovered that vehicle. It was recovered at a school nearby. And so we are asking for anybody with any information on Martin, who he may have been associating with, if they may have seen anything suspicious around that time. What we can tell you is that, unfortunately, our window of when Martin may have suffered that gunshot wound widened a bit for us, went the wrong direction for us, in other words. On the morning of the shooting, I had reported that some witnesses thought they may have heard a single gunshot around 11:30 or midnight the night before. And that part is still correct. We still have witnesses that say they heard a gunshot may have heard a gunshot around 11:30 or midnight. Now, to complicate things a bit, we have since found through our investigations, one of our investigators actually spoke to a homeowner and was able to retrieve video that doesn't capture the actual shooting itself, video of it, but what you can hear is what appears to be a gunshot around 6 in the morning. So, but still before the young man died, but certainly, later, much later than the 11:30 or midnight. So at this point, all we can tell you is sometime between 11:30 and 6 in the morning, we believe that this young man was shot in the head and died there at the scene. Certainly a tragic situation, but we're asking anybody with any information to, again, give us a call, 210-335-6000, or email us at bcsotips@bear.org. Ya saben que el sábado por la mañana, nosotros recibimos una llamada en los Woodlake Trails, la vecindad Woodlake Trails, un reporte de un hombre herido. Nosotros cuando llegamos a la escena de los hechos, nos encontramos con el cuerpo de un hombre de 20 años de edad, que él falleció, se aparenta a causa de un balazo que él sufrió a la cabeza. Ahorita no se sabe a qué horas él falleció, y les puedo dar detalles por qué no se sabe, pero sí sabemos que ahora sí sabemos quién es el hombre este. La víctima es Martín Jaquez Martínez, 20 años de edad, pero no se sabe quién lo mató o por qué. Solamente sabemos que nosotros no sabíamos dónde estaba su camioneta de él, una camioneta marca Toyota Tacoma del año 22, que se había desaparecido la camioneta. esa camioneta ya la encontramos, estaba en una escuela cerca de la escena de los hechos, pero por ahorita no se sabe cómo llegó porque está un poco separado donde la encontramos la troca y el cuerpo del hombre. No se sabe cómo llegó hasta allá el hombre y cómo llegó hasta acá la camioneta, sino que estamos pidiendo al público que si tienen información que por favor nos hablen. Nosotros, el día que pasó, habían dos testigos que nos habían dicho que ellos escucharon aproximadamente las 11:30, medianoche, la noche anterior. Ellos habían escuchado lo que ellos pensaban era un balazo que ellos escucharon en ese tiempo. Nosotros, desde ese tiempo, nosotros nos hemos dado cuenta de otro testigo que tiene una cámara donde nosotros encontramos, no video, pero sí en el video que ellos tienen enfrente de su casa, nosotros logramos escuchar lo que pensamos que es un balazo. Nomás se puede oír en el video aproximadamente las 6 de la mañana antes de que nosotros encontramos o recibimos la llamada por la víctima fallecida. Entonces nosotros no solamente sabemos que entre las 11:30 de la noche anterior y las 6 de la mañana algo le pasó a esta víctima, Martínez, y nosotros quisiéramos que si alguien tiene información tocante quién le pudo hacer esto a este joven, que por favor nos hablen 210-335-6000 o también nos pueden mandar email bcsotips@bear.org. También les estamos pidiendo al público, si viven en esa vecindad o otras vecindades, que por favor revisen sus cámaras y por favor, si pueden encontrar video aproximadamente ese tiempo, nosotros quisiéramos buscar si alguien vio por video, por ejemplo, esta camioneta blanca de Martín huyendo de la escena aproximadamente el tiempo de por favor, háblenos al 210-335-6000. Pueden ser anónimos. The last bit of public plea that I would make is that, again, we're asking for anybody that may live in the Wood Lake Trail subdivision or any other neighboring subdivision, please check your videos between the hours of, I guess we're going on 11:30 and 6 a.m. that morning. If anybody may have seen Martin's truck being driven away at a high rate of speed by somebody or anything that could lead us to who killed this young man and left him to die in cold blood, we would ask for any information regarding that. Again, you can remain anonymous on that. Are there any other questions on either of these four cases?
Yes, Javier.
Yes.
Soy Antonio. En este último caso de Martín Jaques, dos preguntas. Aparentemente se llevan su camioneta, pero la abandonan. A lo mejor entonces no que robársela. Y segunda pregunta, ya habían escuchado un disparo a las 11:30. Ustedes lo encuentran hasta las 6 de la mañana. Estos balazos en los vecindarios, pues se le da importancia porque a lo mejor se trata de una persona que si estaba herida se le pudo haber salvado.
No, tiene razón, Antonio. Sí, bueno, la primera pregunta, sí, pensamos que le quitaron la camioneta al tiempo que lo mataron, pero no se sabe si eso fue a las 6 de la mañana o si fue a las 11:30 de la noche anterior. Pero sí pensamos que no sabemos si lo mataron por la camioneta o solamente usaron la camioneta para escaparse después de matarlo. Entonces nosotros estamos pidiendo que si alguien tiene video, que por favor nos hable. Ahora, del balazo, de lo que pensamos que fue un balazo a las 11:30 de la noche anterior, no nos hablaron. Desafortunadamente los vecinos que reportaron escuchar ese balazo, no nos hablaron. Entonces, esa es una tragedia que nosotros como sociedad nos hemos impuesto tanto a escuchar balazos que ya ni alarmamos a la policía cuando lo escuchamos. Será mejor, nosotros preferimos que por favor, que nos hablen cada vez que escuchen un balazo o 10 balazos o lo que sea, háganos a nosotros y danos la queja, déjanos a nosotros averiguar que si algo le pasó. Se puede imaginar la familia de este hombre joven que ahora no saben, no podemos saber qué le pasó. Le podíamos haber salvado la vida llegando más pronto si él fue balaceado a las 11:30 y si hubiéramos llegado a tiempo. Ahora no vamos a saber. Ahora no le quiero echar la culpa al testigo que no nos habló, sino que le quiero urgir al público que por favor, si escuchan algo así, háganos a cualquier hora y déjanos a nosotros averiguar si es algo que se debería tomar en serio o no, pero deja a nosotros averiguar eso. Let me just give you that part in English, if that's okay, guys. Antonio, his question was if there was a shooting at 11, if there was a gunshot possibly heard at 11:30 the night before, was it called in? The answer to that is no. Now, while I wouldn't want to get into the victim blaming or witness blaming or witness shaming, the fact is that we were not called at 11:30 when people thought they may have heard the gunshot. And maybe they weren't sure what they heard. Maybe they thought it was fireworks. Maybe they didn't want to bother the police on a Friday night, Saturday morning with a one gunshot. That's what we're there for, folks. Call us. If you're ever in doubt, if you heard what you thought may have been a gunshot, but you feel, I'm going to feel silly if they show up and it's just fireworks. I'd rather you feel silly than us, quite frankly, have a young man laying out there deceased all night long. I would rather us get that call and be able to take action quicker. Not that we may or may not have been able to save this young man's life, but maybe we would have been able to be in a better position to catch whomever it was that did it, if in fact this gunshot occurred at 11:30 in the evening. It's kind of tragic that as a society we've become so accustomed to hearing gunshots that we just don't call it in anymore when we hear them. Please, we would prefer that you call us. Yes, we've got staffing issues like every other agency. Yes, we're very busy and we've got a lot of calls going on, but every single call is important, especially when it comes to things like gunshots. Please give us a call. The non-emergency number is 210-335-6000. The emergency call to hear, again, if you hear gunshots, 911 is always appropriate when it comes to possibly hearing gunshots. Please give us a call. Let us be the ones to make that determination on if that call needs to be followed up anymore. Are there any questions before we close? Okay, well, thank you all so much for joining us this morning. I know this afternoon. I know it's a lot of information exchanged, but once again, give us a call if there's ever any need, 210-335-6000, or you can email us at bcsotips@bear.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Javier.